guys? Welcome back to Strong Successful Male. And a big Happy New Year to all you guys around the world. So for today, I'm going to go over this great justice being served email that was sent from a subscriber. This is my guy. He is 28 years old. He's recently married, but recently married to one of the good ones, at least thus far. And he shares a story about how he was able to help reunite his wife and her dad after like 13, 14 years of not seeing each other. You see, when his wife was 12 years old, her mom and dad had been divorced a little while, and out of nowhere, she was led to believe that her father abandoned her by her wonderful mother. And as you probably can figure out, that wasn't the case. But Mama, this despicable Mama, orchestrated everything. And all this time, she has not had her dad in her life, the dad hasn't had her, and it's all been about the mom. Well, you're going to see justice is served and the world's a better place after the guy telling the story leads the charge here. And let me tell you, it is one heck of a good ending that you guys will appreciate. I don't want to reveal too much. And I'm doing this one because it's a great story to start the new year off with both a justice being served to some evildoer as well as a good feel-good story that you guys will appreciate, but also to remind you just how unfair the system is to men. And hopefully, as time goes on, we can do our own little part to change that. But how just all it takes is one malicious, spiteful, despicable ex-wife or girlfriend, for that matter, to pull some strings. And of course, the guy suffers. And not to mention, the child suffers. But in this story, happy ending here. And so I think you guys will definitely like this one for the start off of the new year. Now, to no surprise, a story like this is long. So I'm going to be splitting this up into two parts. I'll do the first part now, and then I'll do the second part 2 hours later. And if you guys just want to wait and come back later to watch the whole thing back to back, no problem. So, starts off, says here, greetings SSM. My daily routine typically involves listening to your videos while commuting or in the office. There were two videos recently that caught my attention. One was about a man in England whose ex made ruining his life her hobby, distancing him from his daughter and baiting him with a legal battle to get his entitled time with his daughter, which he didn't bite on. The other was from the guy in Canada whose ex did the same thing and alienated his kids. I spoke to my wife and she agreed to sharing her story. Well, I'm glad that she agreed to that. And I'm glad you asked her. I mean, that's the right thing to do. And this is a story that needs to be heard. My wife is a good woman. She made me say that. And has heard a few of your videos, which she refers to as the dude operas. Well, let's be honest here. Her play on words on the daytime soaps that so many women tune into. So without further delay, like sands in an hourglass, here's her story. For the sake of the story, I will call my wife Anna. We've been married 8 months now, dated for 5 years before I moved her in, and it was another 18 months before we were married. Okay, that's some decent time in there. I'm 28 and she's 26. Okay, you got married when you were 28, that works. Preferably 30, but okay. She was working part-time during her college days as a waitress at a diner. She worked there paying her own way through college with the help of numerous grants. I like the fact that she was working and paying her way somewhat through college. That's rare nowadays. Good for her. Anna's parents divorced when she was 9 years old. For 2.5 years, she lived with her mom and would go to her dad's every other weekend. He'd pick her up on Friday afternoon, have the weekend with her, and Monday morning, he'd take her to school or to whoever would watch her if there was no school. About a month before she turned 12, her visits to her dad abruptly ended, along with all calls, cards, and gifts. She hadn't seen or heard from her father since. Holy crap. 14 freaking years? That's terrible. She would ask her mom when she'd see her dad again, and her mom would tell her, hopefully pretty soon. One day she asked, and all her mom said was, "Honey, I'm so sorry." She looked at Anna with one of those smiles where she was trying to be comforting, and she also teared up. As the months went by, her dad never called, never wrote, and never came around. She finally accepted he was gone. She also didn't see her grandparents on his side anymore. Do you know what this crap does to a kid, let alone a girl? Dad abandons her. His side of the family abandons her. That gives her daddy issues and abandonment issues. A lot of stuff that, but as you're going to find out, this was not the case. Mommy dearest, I have to admit, I saw that as a possible red flag. Well, it is, dude. Maybe there would be daddy or abandonment issues. I'm conservative in my politics, and Anna was more left of center. Uh-oh. That was another red flag. Her mom dated several men while she was growing up. The relationships never really amounted to much. This made number 3 of the red flags. Give me a smack for going ahead and dating a woman with 3 red flags. Yeah, well, smack. But I know how this ends, so, there's hope. A lot of hope, because Anna seems pretty cool. Might as well add another, her mom and aunt, who spent a lot of time with her, fully in line with the feminist movement. So 4 solid red flags. I was 22, young, dumb, horny, and very attracted to Anna. Oh, great, so her mom and aunt are a bunch of feminists too. Well, that's not going to surprise anybody here. So I got to know her mom, Debbie, and I got along okay with her. Anna usually visited her by herself, but there was the occasional get-together with her family. So I was in attendance for those. What, a fucking witches convention? Debbie likes to control things. She had the I don't need a man attitude. Well, isn't that out of the feminist handbook? She was nice to me most of the time, but sprinkled with backhanded comments. So likely it was mostly an act. Every now and then, a comment would slip about that I felt that showed her true feelings about me. After we became exclusive in our dating, her mom encouraged Anna to see other men besides me, to make sure she was making the best choice. Anna very shyly approached me one day, brought up what her mom told her, and said her and her mom got into an argument over it. Anna said she had no desire to date anyone else, and her mom told her that she was being a fool. Her mom would say if he really loved you, he would understand. Make that 5, 6, 7 red flags. Yeah, but if Anna went to you and told you, I don't want to date anybody, I really like you, that says a lot given the environment we're in right now. And clearly Mommy Dearest can't be that influential on her if that was the case. See, guys, I always tell you, pay attention to red flags. I tell you about girls with daddy issues, abandonment issues. These are obviously could be problems for you. I tell you about pay attention to the family. But if you have a situation where a girl grew up in an effed up family, and that's not her fault, but you can tell, will cut off that effed up family if they cause problems or problems for you, then that's something to consider here. And, well, again, I know how this is going to end. I was seriously beginning to question if this would work out or not, but Anna promised me she had no intention of sampling the dating pool. She has a couple of close girlfriends, but no male friends to speak of. Well, that's good. If you're getting serious, you're the number 1 guy in her life. I put her to the test right then and there, asked to see her phone. She paused for a moment and wanted to know why. I told her I wanted to see if she was being truthful to me. She seemed a bit nervous and apprehensive, but she got her phone from her purse and started to unlock it. I told her to hand me the phone. I'd unlock it. She gave me the password, and we spent the next 25 minutes in silence while I read her text messages and DMs, scanned social media and email. I found out why she was so nervous. Well, I'm sure a lot of us are like, oh great, she's got an OnlyFans account. Or, oh great, she's secretly working. She wasn't a waitress in college, she was a stripper. Well, watch this. In the DMs, there was a conversation between her and her best friend seeking advice about oral techniques. When I asked her about it, she turned beet red, buried her face in her hands, and mumbled, "Oh God." She had only done that for me a couple times and was afraid she was doing things wrong. In all honesty, I can say the worst BJ I ever had received was absolutely fantastic. No message to guys, no bikini shots on social media, no attention seeking, no dating apps, and no hidden apps that I could find. I decided to see how things would play out. Okay, now we know why she got nervous, because she was discussing oral techniques to make you happy. Now that's a great girl. Now can she make a good sandwich? I want to know about that. We've had ups and downs over the years, but nothing that couldn't be worked out. Every couple is going to have disagreements, ups and downs. That's fucking reality. The red flags have really turned out to be nothing. I moved her in after 5 years of dating to see if anything else would show. Notice he said he moved her in. His turf. That's clear. And 5 years. Not 5 months. 5 years. Final test. Even though that test is not always a sure thing. Fast forward to early this year, it was about 6 weeks before our wedding day. In a conversation about ice cream, Anna shared a memory with her dad. He had taken her to the park when she was a little girl. She was having a great time, but suddenly her dad told her it was time to go. She didn't want to leave yet, and he told her she could play for an hour. Instead, it was cut short, and he very calmly picked her up and carried her to the car. She was upset and crying because he had told her she could play for a while, and they had been there for just a short time. As he was carrying her to the car, a big commotion broke out behind them, near where she was playing. She tried to turn to see what happened, but her dad wouldn't let her look. He told her instead they'd go to McDonald's and she could order whatever she wanted. Well, hey, that's a good alternative to the playground. In small doses of McDonald's, of course. She said that he let her get a milkshake, which was a very rare treat. She didn't remember how she found out, but apparently someone had been hurt at the park. She still remembered how calm her dad had been in the situation. This took place before her parents' divorce. She was probably 6 years old at the time, but she said it was a very vivid memory. Well, there's a reason she remembered that. The following is what I was told by her dad, mainly by Anna, and some other details that came from Debbie over the years we dated. Oh boy. The reason her parents split up is because her dad was, drum roll here, abusive in all sorts of ways. When they split up, her mom tried to get full custody, but the court still gave her dad some visitation. She fought very hard to keep Anna away from such an abusive man. Uh-huh. Isn't that what they all fucking say? Apparently, he got tired of paying child support for what he called the little brat, and skipped town, and neither of them had seen him since. He didn't even move his stuff from the apartment he was renting, just up and left it all. Anna's mom received no financial aid from him through alimony or child support after that. Anna remembered spending 2 weeks with her aunt after her dad moved out. Her mom told her later in life that he'd harmed her pretty bad, and she went up in the hospital for a couple of days and didn't want Anna to see her with bruises and cuts. This is awful. Her aunt had said her mom was sick and she would be staying with her until she got over her illness. As at the beginning of this year, I've been following you for a couple of years, and I was beginning to smell a rat in what I had learned about Anna's dad over these years. The story Anna told me about her dad stoically picking her up and shielded her from what was going on around her that day and night was day and night from the picture that I had of this man who did bad things to his wife and abandoned his family. Anna had finished telling me about the event, and I sat there silently pondering things. Anna said something to me, but it didn't register. I was too deep in thought. I fell a hand on my knee and realized Anna was talking to me. She asked me what was on my mind, and I told her I was just thinking. And then I said, "Has she missed her dad?" I asked her if she missed her dad, and she coldly said no. This nagged me for a couple days, so unbeknownst to Anna, I dug her birth certificate out of the file and got her dad's name. I paid for one of those people search sites that you see on the web. It turns out that dear old dad was currently living in the area. Through some simple digging, I found out he worked in a garage in a neighboring city, in the metro area. I decided to bite the bullet and go talk to this guy, again, all of Anna's knowledge. Well, you could be stirring up a hornet's nest with this one, my man. I know you're doing this out of love for Anna, and I know you were doing this because you know a guy was wrong. And it's interesting you say you were listening to my channels and heard stories similar to this that caught your attention. So I'm glad you found my channel, heard these stories, and thought something doesn't seem right with this story with her parents. It turns out that it's not just any old mechanic's garage. It was a large building, 8 repair bays, nice lobby, waiting area staffed by a friendly woman who answered the phone, took payments and your keys, and wrote up the service orders. It also turns out that he wasn't just any mechanic. He owned the place. They closed at 5:30, and I showed up at 5:15. Not wanting to interrupt anything, and figured I could see if I had the correct guy, and if I did, find a time to talk to him if now wasn't a good time for him. I asked to speak to him, and after a short while, a burly man with a full beard and bald head greeted me. I will call him Carl. Okay, Carl, based on your description, sounds like a guy you don't want to piss off. I felt awkward and did my best to hide it. I told him my name, told him I was looking for Carl, but didn't want to interrupt anything. He said now was a good time. I asked if we could talk privately. He asked what it was about, and I told him I was hoping to discuss with him a private matter, and he would understand if he would hear me out. He's probably like, this guy with the fucking IRS? What gives? He sized me up for a moment, and then led me to what I presume was his office. For being an auto mechanic, his office was spotless and very tidy. He closed the door and asked again what was this about. I went the direct route and asked him if he had a daughter named Anna Smith. Oh boy. He looked at me in silence, again sizing me up, and after a brief pause, he asked me what I wanted to know. I told him if he did in fact have a daughter, I was dating her. I didn't mention being engaged or the wedding or anything, as I didn't want to scare him off thinking that we were coming for him to pay for it. He simply said, let the past be the past. There was no emotion in how he said it. I asked him for 5 minutes of his time, and then I would leave. He nodded to a chair, and I sat down for the conversation. Imagine this guy, he started his day in no way, shape, or form thought this is how his workday would end. As quickly and briefly as I could, I told him what I had been told by Anna and her mom. I relayed the story Anna shared with me, and next I told him clearly what Anna knows about him was bullshit. How he was portrayed contradicted Anna's memory of him. He sat there for a moment, let out a little short laugh of the yeah right variety, and then finally spoke up. He told me yes, it was all BS. He said he remembered that day at the park, but added no details. He asked me what I wanted. I told him I wanted Anna to know the truth. He said if Anna wanted to know the truth, she would have come looking for him. I don't blame him for saying that. I mean, after all, Anna's now 25, 26 years old, give or take. You know? But on the other hand, if Anna was told that he abandoned her and all these awful things, you know, we can go round for round on this whole thing, you know? And he doesn't know what Anna was told. But, you know, anyhow. I said I figured I could get the truth. Maybe Anna would be willing to talk to the guy who lost his daughter to what appeared to be a vengeful ex-wife. Again, he said, let the past be the past. He's not saying this to be a jerk. He's saying this because obviously his heart was broken all those years ago after everything he went through. And let me tell you guys, you're gonna find out eventually the details of this. I asked him if he missed his daughter. He told me in his head his daughter's still an 11-year-old girl. He doesn't know who she is. He said my 5 minutes were up. I took the hint, I stood up and thanked him for his time and offered my hand. He shook it and told me good luck. Good luck with the wedding, and hopefully her mom hadn't ruined her ability to be marriage material. Well, he knows. He can only imagine the influence his BIT ex-wife had in the daughter here. I gave my number and told him if he had changed his mind, I would really like to know what the truth was. He says this man was truly stoic. If there was any emotion, he kept it well concealed. As I drove home, I tried to imagine myself in his shoes and what my reaction would have been. I would have eagerly done what I could to possibly see my daughter again. Well, until you're in somebody else's shoes, you can't judge. Then again, I didn't know the whole story, and I wasn't the one who got wrecked by his ex. Carl phoned me 8 days later. I had a feeling he'd call. I met him in his office after they had closed. We sat in the lobby at a table. He had a box with him. Carl told me how he's now married and has 2 boys aged 14 and 11. How Carl got married after all this, and we're going to hear more, is amazing. But he moved on, and hopefully it's a real happy marriage, but he has 2 boys. And your girl Anna has 2 half-brothers. He had discussed things with his wife, and she convinced him to talk to me. Here's what he told me. His ex, Debbie, had, wait for it, cheated on him. When he found out, he confronted her, told her he was done, and was going to divorce her. He didn't care about a financial hit. At the time, he was a mechanic at a dealership. Debbie cried, begged him to stay, and told him she would do anything, offered to let him sleep around with anybody he wanted. She still loved him so much. There you go. Debbie, Mama Dearest, was a cheater. Ruined the whole freaking thing. And we can all connect the dots that then decide to make his life a living hell for divorcing her. Shocker. He had been unfazed by her pleading. They lived in a 2-bedroom, 1-bath home, the same one that Debbie still owns. He slept on the couch after finding out about the affair. Why didn't he put her on the couch? Debbie tried to seduce him, cook him meals, you name it. She couldn't believe how he would throw away their family. No, she threw away the family. He moved out a couple weeks later into an apartment above someone's garage for a couple of years. The divorce was cut and dry. Debbie got the house, alimony, and child support. Even though Debbie's the one that ruined the marriage. And people wonder why so many guys don't want to get married nowadays, or even do relationships, because they know this shit could potentially happen to them. And we're not done yet. He got to live paycheck to paycheck and come see his daughter every other weekend. Oh, joy, how wonderful. Since he couldn't see his daughter regularly, he took on a second job. As for the alleged abuse, he said, yeah, those weren't bruises. It was a tan. Debbie and her lover went on a vacation to Mexico together when he moved out. She paid for the trip, and when they got back, he dumped her. After her lover dumped her, she begged him again to come home and went full court press. But he wasn't having any of it. He had the talk with Anna about moving out and assured her he'd see her as much as possible. Yeah, they got divorced when she was like 9 or 10 years old, give or take, and it was probably horrible for her, and she couldn't see her dad except for every other weekend. Oh, yippee. And this guy was doing what he could. For 2 years, it went on with him seeing Anna every other weekend. And then Debbie found out that he was dating a woman. I know, smacked at Carl for moving on so quickly. Carl said when Debbie found out that he was dating, she tried to get him to come back. She still loved him and wanted the family to be back together. This woman is not capable of love. Then again, we can make the argument that generally they're not, but I'm not going to go there, not just now. One weekend, when he was supposed to have Anna, she wasn't at school, so he went to pick her up at her house. He went to the house and knocked on the door, and Debbie answered in it wearing lingerie. He told her to put her clothes back on. He was there for Anna, not some cheap WHORE. Whew. That was the first weekend he didn't get her. Anna gets her looks from her mom. If she holds her mom's genes, she'll be very good looking for some time. If she takes after her dad, she'll be bald with a thick beard. I'm really hoping for the taking after her mom's looks. I think you're okay. I don't think you're going to have the bearded lady for a wife, dude. When it was clear Carl wanted nothing to do with getting back with Debbie, suddenly the weekend visits were Friday night to Sunday night, then Saturday morning to Sunday afternoon. Carl was ready to introduce Anna to his fiancée, who by then was very pregnant with Anna's little brother. He didn't know how Debbie was able to time it, but suddenly Anna was busy on his weekends. When he dropped by, there was never an answer at the door. This happened just before her 12th birthday. And now he's going to have to pay money to a lawyer to take this to court and everything to get his visitation that she's holding up. And this is one thing after the other. And this guy didn't do anything. I'm sure Debbie will probably find things to blame him for, to say why she cheated and did all this. And who suffers the most in this? Him and Anna. That year for her birthday, rather than leaving the gift at the door, he mailed her the card and present that he bought for her. 5 days later, it came back with a written note on the package saying, addressee refuses, return to sender. He sent Anna a Valentine's gift and Easter basket. Both came back the same way. He tried to contact Debbie, but she wouldn't return his calls. He went to the house and knocked, no answer. He spent an entire Saturday waiting and watching the house, but nobody. One day, Debbie finally answered the door. Before he could say anything, she told him to leave or she'd call the cops. Debbie is the fucking devil. But don't worry, guys. I know you're all fuming here. Debbie gets it. I had to say shit like this, otherwise you guys are going to leave. He was forced to go back to court to get his visitation rights. The rights he actually was supposed to have. Carl and his fiancée were living together now. A court date was scheduled. Then the unimaginable happened. Carl was visited home by, wait for it, Child Protective Services. They were investigating allegations that he had acted very inappropriately with Anna. Instead of fighting for visitation rights, he was now fighting to clear his name. This guy's thinking, why, God, why? What did I do? Again, why so many men are saying, oh, hell no, to get married. And for women watching this, you got to understand why. He said he had to spend nearly $35,000 to be told there was no proof of abuse. 35 grand, guys. That would be a major, major hit to most people now in the U.S. Let's go back in time 14, 15 years, and that $35,000 meant a lot more and was harder to earn. Yeah. Not to mention he's engaged, kid on the way. They again worked to go back to court to see if he could see Anna. This time, Debbie's attorney countered his visitation demands with a request for Carl to sign off all parental rights to Anna. Carl told him no way. There were attorney-to-attorney phone calls, and in the end, Carl's attorney advised him to do it. Carl said he was livid and said there was no way in hell he'd give up his daughter. Now listen to this. And by the way, guys, I guarantee you, almost guarantee you, that Debbie's attorney knew darn well she was full of shit with these allegations. Completely full of shit. Then his attorney dropped the hammer. He has seen this exact situation play out before. By now, Carl had a son, a new baby at home. If he got the court to enforce this custody agreement, all it would take is another accusation by an anonymous source, of course, Debbie, and CPS would likely take his son from his home while they investigated. Carl said he was stuck and went home to discuss it with his soon-to-be wife. It's fucking terrible. I know he had to listen to his lawyer, and his lawyer warned him he's seen this shit happen before. The fucking family courts. The man's always the bad guy. And this could impact his own son now. He did what he had to do to protect what he had. Debbie still wanted child support, but Carl decided if she wanted to force his hand, she could do it financially on her own. The agreement he signed, giving up his parental rights to Anna, stipulated no further support would be required, and Carl was to cease any and all attempts to contact Anna. His attorney advised him not even to try to watch her from afar. Last thing he needed was to be facing stalking charges and restraining orders. Holy fucking shit, this is horrible. Now, a lot of you guys will be saying, he should have fought it, he should have fought it. Well, he could have, and his attorney made it clear, you could have been, they could have pulled more BS. And your own son, you wouldn't have your own, you know what I mean? This is terrible. And now Anna thinks that she was abandoned by her dad, and he can't be with his little girl, and she's raised by this fucking witch. He said it killed him to do it. What other choice did he have? It was bad enough he was losing his daughter. He couldn't risk losing his son over some trumped-up accusations. Anna had to go see a counselor during the allegations. He didn't know what happened there or how it may have affected her. He didn't want to do anything that would drag her deeper through the mud pit that his ex-wife had put them in. Debbie went back to the court and attempted to get her alimony increased since he had more disposable income, not paying child support. What a bloodsucker. She's a fucking pit viper. It cost him more money to fight, but in the end the judge scolded her and said that judgment was already entered and wasn't going to be altered. Well, about fucking time there was a tiny win for poor Carl here. He paid her for 6 years total, but never said how much. All this was shared with little to no emotion, but I could see he is still hurt over what had transpired. Carl also added comment on the park incident. When that happened, he had a day off and had taken Anna there because she loved to swing and go down the spiral slide. He was watching Anna and saw what was about to happen. It turned out to be a gang fight. Anna was mostly correct in recalling the events, but it wasn't someone getting hurt. It was 3 stabbings that occurred. He said the park had always been free of gang activity, but recently there had been some graffiti on the concrete walls, and that day they reared their ugly heads in broad daylight. Carl went through the box that he brought. He had court transcripts, judgments, check stubs, you name it. Anything pertaining to his divorce and Anna were in that box. He also showed me 3 unopened packages and 2 sealed envelopes addressed to Anna. The postmark on one of those packages was 3 days before what would have been her 12th birthday. Debbie has beautiful flowing penmanship. I'd recognize it anywhere. It was her writing on the outside of the package and 2 card-sized envelopes that said, wait for it, addressee refuses, return to sender. She wouldn't even let the daughter see the birthday cards and all that. She's pure evil. Now, guys, I know you're all fuming here, but that part that says addressee refuses, return to sender, I want you to remember that line. That's going to come back later in a way that's going to make you laugh. So he and I talked a little longer. He asked me about Anna, and I gave him a couple vague answers and told him I needed to be respectful of Anna. If she didn't want him in her life, I didn't want to give up details about her, and she may not want him to know. Unsurprisingly, he was unfazed by this. I gave him some things he could find if he wandered to her Facebook page. I asked him if he wanted to hear from his daughter. He said he had already given up on her since she was now 26 years old and had not, to his knowledge, reached out to him. But if she wanted to meet up, he was open to it. I made no promises. Well, think about this, guys. From this guy, his heart was broken by what happened with her witch mother and everything that happened. And maybe when she turned 18 or 19, he was then hoping maybe one day she would call. I bet he was. Nothing. 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. You get my point. This guy doesn't want his heart broken again. So, trying to look at this from his perspective. I pondered for a couple days how to broach the subject with Anna. Oh, you better choose your words carefully, amigo. I finally decided on a direct approach and to force Anna to make a decision. There was a giant elephant in the room that needed to be addressed. Regardless of how things worked out with her father, she was at work, and I sent her a text shortly before she would head home and said, "We need to talk." Dude, I'm sure you know darn well you tell a woman we need to talk, especially by text, what kind of reaction she's going to get. You get married in 6 weeks. Do you have any idea what that's going to do to her? Ah! He says, "I watched videos where you talk about that phrase and what it will do to women." Yeah, and in this situation, you shouldn't have fucking done it. You could have waited for her to get home. She immediately responded with, "What's wrong?" I sent a message back, "Don't worry about it. We just need to talk." Yeah, she's not going to worry about it. Smack. That was a dumbass thing to do. She didn't do anything to deserve that. You only use that tactic when it's warranted. My phone rang, and I sent a voicemail and texted her, "Please come straight home so we can talk." That's making it worse. She phoned me again, but I didn't answer it. She must have left work right away and broken a few traffic laws in the process. Bro, what if she got into an accident? You could have waited till she got home. Anyhow, well, guys, I have to leave at that cliffhanger because it's halfway through the story. When I return in 2 hours, we're going to get into his conversation with Anna. Well, let me tell you, that's going to be interesting. And how this thing plays out with a happy ending and justice being served on that witch Debbie. So, guys, don't be too pissed off at me. I had to cut this off right now. But I mark my words. I'll see you in 2 hours. See you then.